Today we are diving into Dark Winds Season 3, Episode 1. Welcome to Screens in Focus, the podcast where we talk about TV and movies. I'm Diana. Renee is here to join me. Hi, Renee. How are you?
Hello, I'm doing well. How about you?
I'm doing great. I am so thrilled that we are talking about Dark Winds. We haven't been able to dive into this series yet, but I have been a fan since it started. I'm going to ask you in a few minutes what you think about Dark Winds in general. But I do want to pose our question of the day to our friends out there. And Renee, for you to think about, we're going to answer this later on. But what I would like to know is, have you ever heard a folklore tale that stuck with you? Because the title of this episode, and I'm probably going to butcher it, but I believe it's Yeitsu. And they also talk about La Llorona in here too. So there's a couple of folklores in this episode. We're going to talk about those when we get back to our question of the day. So think about that, Renee, and everyone out there. We want to know what your answer is going to be. Dark Winds is an amazing series, and I have loved this from the beginning. It's just so compelling to me. So, Renee, what made you watch this series?
Well, I was really intrigued by the idea of this like crime mixed with Navajo folklore kind of theme. It sounded very interesting. It's such a cool look into like indigenous culture that we don't know. You might know maybe a broad kind of interpretation of whatever their belief systems and things of that, but this kind of it dives deeper into that, and also their everyday lives and how that is different than like someone who doesn't live in, I guess I don't know if it's called a reservation or how wherever they live, but their Navajo land. Laws are different, things like that. So I just think it's been fascinating to learn all this stuff, but then to throw in that crime element or procedural, or I don't know exactly what
crime drama.
Yeah, I just love how that has kind of they've melded that and made it into just an incredible series.
I'm also so fascinated by all of this, the indigenous culture and how they weave that spirituality into everything and their visions that they have and how they look to ancestral beliefs and guidance and such. So I just find it so intriguing. I think that was why one of the other shows, True Detective Season 4, really resonated with me too. And so I was drawn to this. I also love that it is set in the 70s because I think that that is such a cool time to be set in. In saying all that, what did you think about episode 1?
So I thought it was an excellent way to open the season. I was really excited. I had just recently watched 1 and 2, get ready for the third season. I saw the last episode compared to if I waited and watched it earlier. It was exciting to have it open this way, and I love the David Bowie song. I thought that was added. We don't know what's going on, just thrown into this, him, and following him, what he's doing, and you're completely lost already, and then you have this David Bowie song playing and it just, I thought it was so cool because it just added more mystery to what was going on. So I thought that was really cool, and I just love this. I'm not going to even try to butcher their name, but Big Monsters. I'll use the English one so I don't butcher the correct pronunciation. But I just love that they added this into it. They've always talked about this being supernatural, all that kind of. So it's so fun to see this again. We're more so than the previous seasons, because just how much things were featured in this episode. So I thought that was really cool. And then I was, of course, excited to see all the returning characters. As a big fan of The Walking Dead, I was so excited to see Jenna Elfman from Fear the Walking Dead. So that was really exciting to know that they had been cast this season. And I didn't know if we get to see them. So I was excited that we did. So
that I loved it too. That song gripped me. That I was like, oh my gosh, this is going to be so good. And I love how they show us this. And I realized this because when you had said, I rewatched Getting Caught Up. Well, what did I do? I had to go back and rewatch 1 and 2, the both seasons right before tuning in. And so it was fresh in my mind. And I noticed that they did that where they would start with a scene and then they would go back a week or a couple weeks or whatever it was. And I am just a sucker for that type of storytelling. Like it. It's cool because you're like, oh, we're going to get to this part. We just don't know when we're going to get to this part. I absolutely loved all of that. And I am such a fan of all these actors, the three main leads.
Mhm.
Just watching Zahn as Joe Leaphorn. Did I even say his name right? Is it Zane? I am just so thrilled for Zane McClarnon because I've seen him in so many other things, and he's such a phenomenal actor. He leads this, and he's so good at what he does, and so are the other actors too. Bernadette is played by Jessica Matten, and Jim Chee is played by
Mhm.
Kiowa Gordon. I am probably butchering their names, and I'm so sorry, but I love them.
Mhm.
I'm just thrilled with the very first episode. So, in talking about that, what were the highlights for you in this one?
Sylvia Washington's introduction as another FBI agent here trying to meddle within their law and everything. I think that's going to be interesting to see what happens because we hear that she is investigating BJ Vine's death, which we all know what happened there. So that could cause significant problems for Leaphorn coming up in this season. So I think that's going to be exciting to see what pans out there.
I was excited to see Jenna Elfman in this too, and I thought, what's her role going to be? It's interesting to see someone in a role that you love so much in another
Mhm.
show. We loved her in Fear the Walking Dead, and then here she's playing this FBI agent that is investigating Joe, and you're like, no, oh,
Well, it's kind of funny because the FBI agent was in The Walking Dead.
yeah,
So I thought that was pretty funny. That I'm sure it was just funny to see that because Noah
yeah,
Emmerich was in The Walking Dead. But yes, it's always no, I don't want him to be on that side. Don't want to
yes,
be on the good
yes,
guy side or whatever,
yeah,
And who
yes.
knows? Maybe she is a good guy. We'll see.
Right, right. We don't know where this is gonna lead, although she is gonna investigate it. So
And she's giving him the eye. She knows something. So, and I love seeing Bernadette in her new role. I hate that she's not with the Leaphorn and Chee, but I'm sure it'll come somehow. They'll work together, hopefully. And I really think she's onto something with these trafficking suspicions. I wonder, is there something being covered up internally?
right.
But even though I know that part, I know that this series will give it, maybe that's where it's headed, but it's going to be some kind of other route that I didn't think of. Oh, that's the way they're doing this. So
Yeah.
it'll be very interesting to see what happens with that. We got this new case with the missing boys and all that stuff going on there. But one thing that I really kind of struck me was in this investigation, we're finding so much more about Chee's backstory, which is
Yeah.
very interesting. So I love that aspect of it too. So those are, the ones that I just am really like, oh, great. This is going to be so cool to see what's up.
Oh my gosh. So, which one do we start with? I want to start with Bernadette because I think that I wasn't sure where they were gonna go with this,
Mhm.
and she's 500 miles away.
Mhm.
That's so far because I thought, okay, maybe they'll be kinda close where she can come visit or she comes back for a little bit, but no, like, she is 500 miles away. But what I did appreciate was learning. I feel like her being on this border patrol and helping this woman and her child, I don't know, it just brought about, like, more of her character and who
Mhm.
she is and how she is on her own. So, I liked seeing that this episode highlight who she is. But yeah, it's like, how is it gonna tie back and bring you guys together, or is it? I
Mhm.
don't know how that's gonna work out, and I agree that there is something with the people that she's working with. They're just too quick to discount what she's thinking,
Mhm.
wanting to do, and her inquiry into it, or wanting to inquire more. So, it'll be really interesting how that all pans out. And the missing boys, that is such a, they're 14,
Yeah.
and it was like, okay, well, only one was missing because we saw one at the school. I wasn't sure if they were missing or if they're dead, and of course, by the end of the episode, no, they're dead, and I'm thinking, someone killed a 14-year-old boy? I mean, where are we gonna go with this? This
Yeah.
is horrendous. So, I don't know. It'll be an interesting watch to figure all of that out. Oh, the archaeological dig
Yeah.
site.
Yeah.
that's gonna play a huge role in this
Mhm.
because the boys, the missing boys, or the one now deceased boy and the missing boy, both worked for them.
Mhm.
So you know that it's tied somehow into what's gonna happen. And I do wanna mention the beautiful landscape. It is
Oh,
so gorgeous. Every time they show it, it's amazing to see.
yeah, it's breathtaking. I wanna go there. I wanna be see this.
I have a friend who moved to that area, so now I'm like, I might
Oh,
have
make
to visit her. I did want to mention the boy that ended up they found dead. His name was Ernesto Cata. And that thing in his mouth, at first I couldn't tell what it was.
Mhm.
It's a lance point. I believe that's what it is. So I thought that
Right.
was interesting. I'm like, how is this going to tie in? And I think it's because of the dig that they're doing.
Yeah,
So
sure. I thought it looks kinda like a claw, but that can still be I mean, it was like metal or something. Yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
yeah,
So it'll be interesting to see. But yeah, I agree. I'm sure it has something to do with the dig.
yeah. So, in talking about all the main characters, and you touched upon Chee's backstory, what did you think about any of the characters? We're going to dig
Mhm.
a little bit deeper into each of them.
So with Leaphorn, I think he's really struggling, which we have seen in the first two seasons
Yeah,
as well. He's always has so much going on, so much weighing on him. But the opening of this, it showed him in a different light. We have not seen him scared like this probably I don't think ever in the series,
yeah,
and
yeah,
it just shows you that this big monster is definitely something to fear for him to feel that way. And I think that of course what they were trying to get across is the realization of how important and what this all means. And so I just it'll be interesting to see how this all pans out because he saw it how many times did he see it 2 or 3 times?
two, at least
Two
twice. Yeah,
at the house and then at the
yeah,
beginning. Yeah. Okay.
yeah,
So that you saw it twice already. And it's a creepy looking thing. And so, we've got all that going on. But then now we have, and then like I mentioned with Washington, that could end up badly for him as well. So, those are two things with him that I'm very concerned about.
yeah, he has so much guilt, and I was just thinking because we've both seen the first 2 seasons more just recently
Mhm.
about all that guilt he feels about his son, losing his son, him and his wife, and how he feels guilt because he wanted his son to stay. Because I remember his wife saying, "You could have told him,
Mhm.
whatever you needed to tell him, but you didn't." And he basically was I wanted him to stay. I didn't want him to
Mhm.
leave. And as a parent, you know how that kind of feels. It's like you want your children to go off and be successful and do their own thing, but then it's hard to let them
Mhm.
go because they're they're your children, even though they're grown adults. But so I understood, how some parents, it's just hard for them to let go. And he feels guilt for
Mhm.
not maybe doing the things that he should have. But we've seen him through all that guilt. And of course, that's their only child, which goes to how these people are treated by authorities or by government or whatever it is. Because I was thinking to myself, oh, they didn't have any more kids, but that's because they took their rights away to
Mhm.
not have any more kids, which I hadn't remembered that until I watched it again and
Mhm.
was shocked by it. So
Mhm.
shocked. Anyway, back to his guilt. Oh, I know what I wanted to say was at the beginning when we saw that first scene and we saw that thing rising up, and I thought, this looks like a zombie. Are we watching The Walking Dead? Yes, we are. No, we're not. It's
Oh,
okay though. But seriously, it looked like
yeah.
a zombie
It-
to me. Like
mhm.
one of our real zombies. Well, our real zombies when I say that as in the Walking Dead world.
Mhm.
But and then of course he sees it later on like you had
Mhm.
mentioned. And then I kept thinking, did he really I don't think he saw all the ants on that plate.
Mm-mm. No.
That was a vision.
Mhm.
But what is interesting is that the younger brother that he went and talked to,
Mhm.
He's the one who mentioned, because he said a name and I didn't realize the name until later. I'm like, "Oh, he's saying the monster
Mhm.
name that," and so it probably got into Leaphorn's head. So he goes home that night, goes to sleep, he gets up and sees the ants, which is what the boy was, his ant farm that he was tending to, and then he goes out and sees the monster. So it was interesting because the boy mentioned it, and now Leaphorn has seen this because
Mhm.
the beginning scene doesn't happen yet. It happens
Right.
a week out.
Mhm.
So it's all going into his head. Oh, the boy mentioned this. And then these
Mhm.
things started happening. And then also that his wife called him, and that kind of brought him back to himself and to her
Mhm.
and such. So I feel like she's going to be pivotal in whatever journey that he is going on to get through this. And you're right, it's going to have an impact what Washington figures
Mhm.
out or brings up, because in the previews, a couple people said, this impacts me and not just you, and what are the consequences?
And then when you were talking about the ants, that reminded me. So, what did you think about when he told her he saw the wolf in the road or whatever, and she said, "Which
Oh,
way was he pointing?" And she said north, and she grabbed the plate and it broke. And I'm like, "What was that?"
it's so funny because my husband's all, "Is north the bad way for
Yeah,
her for it
like
to point?" I'm like, "I think so," because she looks worried.
yeah,
And he said, "Well, the you can't point it any other way. That's the way it was, you know? Can I go outside and turn it a little?" I don't know.
like they didn't give us an explanation, but obviously there that was something because she definitely didn't. She looked concerned. Yeah.
Didn't in the first season, and I don't remember seeing this when I watched it back, but didn't Byrne say something to Chee about it? Or somebody. I thought she said something
Yes,
out on
something.
the road. I don't remember what
But
that
I
was at the time.
hmm, yeah, now that you say that, I think so. I'm gonna have to yeah, I'll have to research that more.
Research it. Yeah.
I just remembered that when you were talking about the ants, I'm like, "Oh my
Yeah.
gosh, I forgot about that part." So, yeah, we'll see what that ends up happening or
I was just thinking, I am bringing up something that I noticed in the first 2 seasons. There were so many ceremonies that I thought were really cool. So I'll be
Mhm.
interested to see what other ceremonies they
Yeah.
bring up,
Mhm.
you know? Like you were saying, we learn about things that we didn't know, and so
Mhm.
it's kind of cool to see the things that occur. Because I was thinking of, is it Sally, the one that had the baby? I don't know if her name is Sally or not. She's the one
Yeah,
that, yeah, had
like
the
that.
baby that she's
Mhm.
not in this season because she
Mhm.
took off,
Yeah. Yeah.
but yeah, just the ceremonies that were
Mhm.
happening around. What'd you think about Chi and his past traumas that he's dealing
Yeah,
with?
I like, he's having, he's returns home, which wasn't something he thought he was going to do. He was hoping he had high hopes for the FBI and the things that he wanted to do there. But as he's returning home, trying to acclimate, trying to fit back into the, the Navajo lifestyle and how things are. And then, as he begins this investigation, and then all this, like you said, trauma, all these, events that happened, unpleasant events happen to him,
Yeah.
they're resurfacing now. And so that's, yeah, so it'll be interesting to see where all that takes him because, like he met that, forget what the guy's name was, but when they met the father of the one boy,
Yes. Wait, Bowleg.
Bole,
Bowleg.
yes,
Yeah.
yeah. And when he met him, obviously, they did not get along, and he kind of explained some of that with the bullying and the stuff that happened. But it's obvious there's going to be more in that vein, uncovering more of his story, which is going to be very interesting to see how he got where he is.
Yeah, I was surprised by his reaction, and maybe he's used to how that guy approached him, and that's why he reacted that way, because the guy didn't do too much, and yet
Mhm.
he,
Yeah,
yeah,
he
he's
came at
like,
him, yeah, pretty
yes,
good.
he did. So
So,
I'm like,
I think some,
whoa,
yeah,
okay.
uh, PTSD or whatever coming back,
Yeah.
causing some things. Yeah.
But he also talked about his mom and
Yeah.
the abuse
Mm.
and her two front teeth being knocked out. So I mean, that's pretty impactful when you're with your mother and that happens, and then
Yeah.
she ends up protecting you.
Mhm.
So, yeah, I think we are gonna see a lot more of that, but I just love that we're learning so much about
Mhm.
these characters, and again, I'm gonna bring up something from the past seasons, but I loved his fashion and his polyester type suits and his big, um, shirt, what do you call it? Collars, his big
Mhm.
shirt
Yeah.
collars. It's so funny because I said to my husband something about the shirt collars. I'm like, maybe it's due for them to come back in style again, right? I just said it casually, and it was so funny because in the second season, or it was first second season, that kid that he's talking to, the one that lost his father, his grandfather, uh, and the kid says something about his collar. He goes, "Hey, it's on trend right now. It's going to be real big." I thought that was so funny. And then the kid gets in the car with his mom.
And he's
Yes, he puts his collar out
I
as
loved
if,
it.
yes, like he wanted to be
Yeah.
like him. And
Yeah, yeah,
so
that was
I just
awesome.
thought it was really cute.
Mhm.
I really just found that so amusing and also funny because
Yeah.
of the attire that they're wearing.
Yeah.
Okay, so what about Bernadette?
So yeah, Bernadette, she's like we said, she's on to something, and you can just tell I don't know, there's just something not going right within that office. There's definitely some things being tucked under, out of the way or
Yeah,
whatever. But it's, fun. It's fun to see her be bold and stay, hold to her convictions and help this woman and her, daughter and things, which could end up coming back to bite her, I suppose. But I'm worried that she's going to get involved somehow and
yeah,
like maybe I get hurt but captured. I don't know. I feel like, yeah, there'll be something significant that happens with her just because she's going to keep nosing into where she
yeah.
probably should be. I didn't catch his name, but I guess I don't remember what his name, Alex Mraz, what his character name was, her coworker. But I feel like he's really, really nice. And I just kind
But
of
you're
feel like,
like, yeah.
because he tends to play a bad guy. So not that he has to be typecast, but it's just kind of like his thing. And
Yeah.
so yeah, it'll be really interesting to see where that goes. I'm excited to see her story and what happens, and excited and scared.
Yeah, I never trust anybody too much either, but I'm afraid for her too because who does she have as backup? She
Mhm.
has
Yeah.
no one as
Mhm.
backup. It's funny, even in when she was with Leaphorn and with Chee, even then when she would drive out with her car, I was always so worried that something was going to happen because sure they have their radio, but it's not, they don't have the things that we have now, and I'm thinking, "Oh my gosh, how is she gonna react to whatever could happen to her?" And so
Mhm.
even more so now because she doesn't have any backup. No one knows. Maybe that one other woman that is border patrol, maybe
Mhm.
she would be there to back her up. I don't know, but it's interesting. But what I do love about Byrne is like what I mentioned before, she really has to follow her gut
Mhm.
and her morality or her ethic or whatever it is. She can't just let things go. It's
Mhm.
hard for her to separate her duty with who
Mhm.
she is, and I love that about her. I just love that that is a part of her that is highlighted, and like I said, I think her being away from everybody just, elevates her role and her
Mhm.
character, so I'm loving everybody in this. They're just
Mhm.
been such amazing characters. Can't help but just really care about all 3 of them, which is a testament to the writing in
Yes.
this
Mhm.
and the direction and the actors because you
Mhm.
feel for each of them. Because sometimes what happens is maybe one person kind of comes up and the others are
Mhm.
here, but I don't know. I love, like, if anything happened to either of those 3, I think I'd be devastated because 'cause they're just so important
Mhm. Yeah. And
to it.
this, like for people that don't know, this is based on a series of novels, the Leaphorn and Chee
Yeah.
novel, and so there's more story, if you want to read it, it's, out there. And it's, yeah. So I always think that's really cool when they can take these characters from the page and put them on the screen. And it seems like, I haven't read the books, but it seems like fans of the books have been real happy with what has been produced with the adaptation.
I don't normally read unless it's a memoir. I just don't because I think I watch
Mhm.
so much TV and
Yeah.
movies and family and cooking and work and all of that other stuff. But I do you know that I wanted to read these books? Like I even looked it up to get it at the library to
Yeah.
see if I could pick it up because I'm
Yeah.
like, I might like this. So
Mhm.
I don't know. We'll see. We'll see if I go pick up those books or not. So I'm glad that you brought that up.
Mhm.
And I wanted to bring up that there was a cameo with Robert Redford and George R. R. Martin, who
Yes.
are executive producers.
I was like, "Oh my gosh."
I know, I'm thinking, well, first they showed George, and I'm like, "Wait, he looks familiar."
Yeah.
And then, of course, when they showed Robert Redford, I'm like, "Oh my god, that is so cool that they
Yeah.
were, uh, jailed up and
Playing chess through the
playing
bars
chess."
and
Yes, I thought that that
yeah,
was a
that was
very
great.
cool moment,
It
yeah.
was, that was super, yeah. I really enjoyed that.
Anything else that popped up in the episode or
It
previous
just I like
episodes?
the 70s style, like you said, I loved it. When they first did the first look photos of Jenna Elfman, I'm like, I wrote an article about how cool her I'm like, "Look at her rocking the 70s style. Her hair is just perfect," and oh my gosh, I just loved it so much. And I also think, like I get to this point where like things are happening. I'm like, why aren't they just calling them? And it's like, oh yeah, this is the 70s. They don't have a cell phone. I, I just catch myself doing that. It's like,
Yeah.
well, wrong time period. So it's fun to, watch these set not in our modern age and they don't have all the technological advances that we do. But it's like, how did they function? I mean, I was little in the 70s, but we still somehow we made it through. But yeah, now we
Yeah.
just can't imagine that. And so it's fun to see that. And I think I mentioned this earlier about the supernatural aspects. I'm glad that they're keeping with that. And I feel like this season's going to be more than what we've seen with that, with this new monster and these different folklore things that we're
Yeah.
seeing. So
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah.
This 70s, I wanna stay on that for a second because I do wanna say I love the cars.
Oh
They
yeah.
are just incredible. It makes me want them. I think these are the coolest cars. Where did they get these? Who had them? And, just everything. I just love the way this is shot. I already mentioned the environment, the scenery, the cinematography is just gorgeous, and then I love that nothing is high tech in here. When they get hurt, they get hurt.
Mhm.
When Leaphorn, had his shoulder dislocated, he had his shoulder. This was in the last season, but they're hurt and they're in the
Mhm.
hospital, and I just love the non high tech of it all. It's
Yeah.
just very cool to me. They have to answer a phone that has a wire. I remember this in my household. Just the television sets and the dishes and just everything. I just love the whole vibe, everything about it. Yeah. And we had talked about the archaeological site becoming
Yes.
something. And I did want to bring up that thing that they found in his
Mhm.
mouth and about it being a Folsom Lance point. And I did look this up because I was so curious about
Yeah.
it. I guess the first one was found in 1908 in Folsom. And this, I think, was proof that there was existence much further back than they had thought.
Mhm.
Because I think they found it was embedded in the bones of an extinct bison.
Oh wow.
Yeah. And it said that the discovery proved that humans had lived in the Americas thousands of years earlier than the previous thought. And so I thought that that was
Mhm.
so interesting because I had no idea what that thing in his mouth. I'm like, what's that thing in his mouth? What is it? What does it mean? But the fact that somebody put it in his mouth, why? To prove a I don't I'm so I want to know. I want to know. And we're not going to know for 7 more episodes. But in the previews, we see a train, which I think is going to signify something because this is getting way ahead of myself, but this is what I did. I went and looked to see what the last episode title is, and the last episode title is Iron Horse, which is
Mhm.
train.
Mhm.
So,
Interesting.
and I think Bruce Greenwood, is that his name? I
Mhm.
think it's Bruce, is
Yeah.
going to be in this.
Mhm.
So
I don't know.
is he gonna be the big baddie? I don't know.
Probably.
And And is it because the boys were digging on the site, they found something, mentioned it, and people either don't want that to be known because then maybe this site, this land will be even more like don't touch, right?
Mhm.
Like you really can't touch this now. And maybe they want it because, it's
Mhm.
always about land. They want
Yeah.
their land, It's like you can't have it, belongs to the Navajo Nation. But they try to figure out different ways to get money or get
Mhm.
land or get whatever it is. So it'll be interesting how all of that plays out. But I just thought that that was an interesting thing about that Lance Point
Yeah,
and
that
about
is.
the
And
train too.
when you were talking, I was like, what if they like found something and they released the monster when they were digging?
Oh, yes.
I heard
Yes.
that. I was like, oh gosh, maybe that's it. So they can't let they can't even, they knew the boys would tell someone maybe, or I don't know.
Yes. Well, and that could be true, right? Because they're
Mhm.
digging up
Mhm.
everything and it's like you let it escape,
Yeah.
right? So, and that happens in like Jumanji and
Yes.
all kinds of things. So,
Exactly. Just like Jumanji. But like in the Mummy, and then there's all these shows that
yes.
happens. They
Yes.
mess with stuff they're not supposed to be messing with, and they
Yes.
unleash the demon or something. So I'm
Yes.
telling you, you watch. That's going to be it. Or if not, it should have been.
I know. I
But
know. So cool. Anyway, do you have anything else you want to bring up or we're going to get to our question of the day?
let's go to the question of the
Because
day.
this is perfect timing, actually.
Exactly.
So, Renee, have you ever heard of a folklore tale that stuck with you?
I was trying to think like what exactly is folklore? Can I do, whatever? So I different things in my brain. I was trying to think of, as a kid, you heard these stories, and
Yeah.
on our playground, we always would tell these stories to, like the scary ones to, scare everybody. And I just remember like the headless horseman, the whole thing with
Oh, yes.
that has always stuck with me because first of all, he's headless, and second, horses. I'm scared to death of horses, and so
Aw.
he's just I've had some accidents with horses, so it's just I
Yeah.
got to figure out how to get over it. But anyway, even as a child, that was kind of a thing, so it kind of just stuck with me with that. And that of course inspired the legend of Sleepy Hollow, the story that's been adapted several times. But other countries have different stories like with this headless horseman, but he always, he's either missing his head, carrying his head, or looking for his head. It's kind
Yeah.
of somewhere in that
Yeah.
vein for different reasons, depending on which country it's in. There's lots of different stories. So that's one just because of the whole, headless as a kid. I was like, what? He's headless, and then the horse thing, So that's one that's always stuck with me.
Well, there's some cool ones out there,
Hmm.
so it's fun to think about these. And it was interesting because when Chee brought up La Llorona, I thought, okay, wait, I know that. And that's because my cousins told me when I was a little kid, and I don't remember the same exact story. I mean, the exact story. And I think when I looked it up recently, it varies a little bit, but of course, it's the weeping woman.
Hmm.
And the reason she weeps is what's been varied a little bit. It was said that she found that her husband was having an affair and she killed her kids. And
Hmm.
now she's basically doomed because of what she had done. And then it was said that she kidnapped kids and those kids were never seen again. So I think
Hmm.
maybe that's why she brought it up. So there's little variations of the story, but you can hear her crying.
Hmm.
And I remember them telling me, oh, she's crying and you're not either supposed to be outside or she could come get you or whatever it was. So, of course, I was this little kid. I'm like, oh my gosh. So, that name, every time I hear it, my ears perk up because I
Hmm.
do recall it. So, when she said that, I'm like, wait, I know what he's talking about. So, and it can be powerful, right? And
Hmm.
it is powerful in Leaphorn's life right now. And also, like I said, that other bow leg, is it George? Is George the little one or is George the other brother they're looking for? I think George is the little one. I can't remember. But, he brings it
Hmm.
up.
Yeah.
So it's something that they talk about. And for anyone that wants to know that folklore, let's not butcher the name, Yeitsu. is threatened to drive humanity to extinction by eating them until two brothers defeated the monster at one point. There's so much more to it. That's just it in a nutshell of what it is and what the folklore is. So I just find it so fascinating, so interesting. So thanks, Renee, for sharing yours. And friends out there, we would love to hear what you have to say. What's a folklore that has impacted you? We would love it if you would comment wherever you're watching this, or you can get to our social media at screensandfocus.com and just let us know. You can even email me, or you can call me at 669-223-8542. Yes, I have my phone number correct. I'm like, wait, did I say that right? Yes, I did. All right, because we would love to know what folklore impacted you. All right, Renee, this was a good discussion on the opening episode. I love it. So, friends, come back for episode 2. We'll be here next week. So, we are segueing into our TV and movie recommendations now. So, Renee, I would love to know, what else have you watched recently?
Well, we've been dry on movies for some reason. I don't know. We've just been focused on series more. So currently we've been watching The Pitt, which if you have not watched it, it's so good. A friend of mine had commented about it, and I commented on, social media and said, "Oh, I love this series." And she said, "This is like exactly what it's like working in an ER." She said, "It's crazy and all those things that happen." She said it's very real. But yeah, it's so good. Lots of good actors and things in it. And just the characters are so fun to get to know and things. So really enjoying that. And then on the flip side, we're also watching St. Dennis, which is a comedy set in an ER or at the hospital.
Oh.
And sometimes when we're watching, I'm like, why is this so, oh yeah, this is the other show. So I kind of got myself confused, but it's really funny. And again, fun characters and things like that. So that one's, really good also.
It's called St. Dennis?
So it's called St. Dennis Medical, actually. It's an NBC series.
Okay.
It's really good, really funny. Yeah. Then I've always wanted to watch Fargo, the series, and I've never done it. And so I watched 1 and 2, not all of 2. I'm in the middle of 2 right now.
Wow.
And it's just, well, it's funny because the whole 70s, kind of the theme in those, fits in with Darkwind. So it's kind of fun that way. And also because Zane is,
oh yes,
he is in the second season.
Yes.
So it's funny to see him in that role as kind of like
a bad guy.
Right? Yeah, he's a bad guy, but he's also like the underling to that family. They kind of just see whatever they need him to do. And then you see him in Darkwinds, and he's the leader, and he's the good guy, and he's all so it's funny to see that. Quite different roles. But the first season was excellent. The second season, I don't feel like it's as good. I like it, but the first season was just really good. And I'm still liking it very much. But anyway, so those are the 3 that I've been really, kind of plugging through watching right now.
Okay, so I didn't watch season 1 of Fargo. So I'm going to go back and watch that. See, I jumped into season 2 because I wanted to see the actors in that one, because they're married now. I think they met. Did they meet during there, or were they married yet? Kirsten Dunst and Jesse Plemons. Yeah.
Yeah, I can't remember where that is in their timeline, but it's fun seeing that is fun seeing them act together.
Yeah. So I loved that season, but I actually started in season 5 because it was premiering when I watched it. Okay. So I watched season 5. I thought, this is so good. So I went back and I said, well, since they're anthology, you can watch any of them at any time. I went to season 2, but I do need, and it was funny the other day when I was looking for something to watch, I said, well, I could go back and watch 3 more of Fargo. So now that you said you really enjoyed season 1, I'll start with 1.
Yeah, I would. I mean, like I said, the season 2 is fine. It's very, very good. But I like the first season better, Yeah. So I definitely recommend it. So I'm excited now that I'm into it now, because I've heard that 5th season is really good. So I'm excited for that. So yeah.
Wait, you did watch a movie?
What movie?
The Gorge.
I did watch them.
See?
Good. Okay, there we go. And it felt like we watched a movie, but I went back and looked and I didn't have it on my list. So yes, The Gorge. I love that movie. And I know
I loved it too. I was going to tell you you could bring that up, but yes, we both watched The Gorge. We both love that movie. Because when it first came out or somebody was saying something about it, they're like, "Oh, this and that. It's
Mhm.
not that good." Or I'm like, "What?
Yeah,
That movie
the
was
movie's
so
delightful.
good to me." My husband enjoyed it. Yeah, it isn't like some Oscar nominated story, but Miles Teller and Anya Joy Taylor, am I saying her name right? They have phenomenal chemistry, I think.
Amazing. I mean, to act, I don't want to say much, and I recommend not watching the trailer. If you have not watched the trailer, just go into the movie cold because I feel like it gives a little bit too much away. I think
Uh-huh.
I thought, and anyway, and I had read something ahead of time which I shouldn't have, but it didn't really ruin the experience for me. But the fact that they were not like always together
Yeah.
and still had that great of chemistry, it was
Yes.
incredible.
You're right. You're right.
And yeah, I never know how much to say because I don't like to give
Yeah.
things
Of
away,
course. No, it makes
but no,
no
I just
less.
loved it.
Yeah.
I thought it was I just yeah, I did. I thought it was a really great movie, and like you said, yeah, we're not talking it's probably not winning any awards or anything, but it's a really good show or movie.
Entertaining.
Mhm, yeah.
Entertaining. You feel for them. You love their chemistry. They're both individually such good actors. There's action.
I love how it was like you had action, you have some horror in there, you got some romance in there, and
Yeah.
the little bits of romance that are in there are perfect. You think, wait, they don't always have to put that in a movie, but they did it so well. Everything
Yeah.
was just done very well
Yeah.
and fit the story and all that, you know. And so I don't know why people didn't like it, but I recommend
Yeah.
it.
Well, it's interesting when I did put it out, everybody that commented on it on TikTok, they all loved it. Like
Yeah.
people were chiming in because
Mhm.
sometimes people will say, "Ah, didn't like this,"
Yeah.
or I didn't think so." But no, everybody in this one, they were all agreeing with
Mhm.
everything. So there are a lot of people that
Good.
did like it.
The
So
rest.
that's good. So go watch The Gorge on Apple Plus TV. It's really good.
Mhm.
Okay, for me, Running Point on Netflix with Kate Hudson, really good show. I was pleasantly surprised. I usually don't always watch sports
Mhm.
oriented movies or TV shows. I watch them, but I don't gravitate toward them. This was so good. It was so good. So I highly recommend that. I had heard about Jury Duty on Prime,
Mhm.
and this is with James Marsden and just I don't want to give too much away, but it's basically somebody on the jury is thinks it's real
Mhm.
and no one else. Okay, it says it every episode, so I don't think I'm giving anything away, but it is so funny. And I normally don't like pranks or when people are deceiving other people. It bothers me. This is so well done. It is hilarious and it just ends really well. So that is what I'll say about that. Check that out. It's on Prime. I'm also watching 1923. It's come back. I love a Western. Or it's kind of a Western, right? It's so good. It's Helen Mirren is amazing, man. She's right now the highlight of this season. And I just love the story. I love where it's going. So I recommend that one.
I'm having trouble with that one. We watched quite a bit of the first season. So
Yeah.
and I couldn't it didn't grab me. And so I said, let's start it over again. And I
Yeah.
still just I don't know what it is, if it's just my attitude or what it is, but I have had a lot of trouble getting into this one.
Well, I will say, did you see 1883?
Yep.
Okay, love that one.
That
Like
was my favorite.
I love that. Okay.
Yeah.
When I watched 1923, it was a little bit bumpier for me, but I don't know if it was the latter half. I don't know what it was that kept me gripped. Maybe it was just Harrison Ford or whatever it
Mhm.
is. But I am really liking this season. So I don't
Mhm.
know if and it's only had a few episodes, but I
Mhm.
knew I wanted to watch it. But the episodes that I have seen have been really good.
Mhm.
Like I said, Helen Mirren's been in it. the women have been in it. All
Mhm.
the kind of women that are in the show, it's kind of highlighted their
Mhm.
perspective and what they're going through. And so I don't know, I'm really liking seeing the women in here. So
Yeah.
that's
Mhm.
probably been the draw for me in season 2.
Mm.
And I real like last night I watched the episode, and even my husband was sitting with me, and he's not watching it, but he saw part of it and he was gripped. And it was a part one of the women was going through something, and so it was good. So I hopefully, I don't know, anyone out there, go check it out and see what you think. So I did want to mention, I just went and watched Mickey 17 yesterday, and this is with Robert Pattinson. It's directed by Bon Joon-ho, if I have his name right. He's the director who did Parasite and won the
Mhm.
Oscar for that. Anyway, Stephen Yun is in here. I'm going to say he plays against Glenn. Okay. He's not Glenn. He's not Glenn. And when he's in this, and it was funny when we were talking about Jenna Elfman earlier, I was thinking, oh, Stephen, you're playing such a, I don't even want to say the word, but that's what you're playing. And I'm like, oh man, but funny, like
Mhm.
hilarious though, because it is a comedy
Mhm.
sci-fi. And what it is, and it's not giving anything away because this is the premise. Mickey 17 is because it's in the future, he's expendable, and he's basically like a lab rat. They test on
Mhm.
him, and every time he dies, he comes back with the knowledge that he has, and they reprint him and he goes at it again. So go watch it. I will say, in the middle of this movie, I got a little bit like stuck, like I'm like, oh, it was so good. And then I got a little stuck. But then toward the end, it ended well, really well done,
Mhm.
beautifully done. And as a director, he knows what he's doing. So I thought it was good. And Mark Ruffalo's in it, Tony
Mhm.
Collette is in it. So a lot of big time actors are in
Yeah.
this movie. So I enjoyed it. So, and I did watch almost, well, 8 of the Oscar nominated films. And the only ones I didn't watch are I'm Still Here and Nickel Boys. But all the other ones I watched, I could go over those, but I'm not going to. So go listen to that podcast because we do a breakdown of all those movies. A lot of good movies. It was fun.
That was a good list.
Yeah, we have some good recommendations there. All right, Renee, thank you for your recommendations. Thank you for joining me. I can't wait to break down the next episode with you. Thank you so much.
Thank you. I'm so excited. I can't wait to see what happens this season.
It's
And it's
going to
always
be
so
fun.
much, yeah, it's so much fun to go through it with somebody else that likes it as much as I do.
I know. I love it. When you said, yeah, I'm watching it, I'm like, yes, let's talk about it. So good.
Mhm.
All right. Well, thank you again.
Thank you.
And thank you, friends, for joining us today. We are so grateful you joined us. We hope that we said something today that resonated with you, gave you a chuckle, some happiness, some inspiration. Don't forget to subscribe to Screens in Focus at screensinfocus.com. And remember to keep watching, keep exploring, and keep those screens in focus. And we will see you next time. Bye.
Bye.